And I'd like to explore the general failure of news media in this country over the last 25 years. But what I want to focus on today is basically Bill Clinton no longer being protected by the press. For years, certainly when the press thought that Hillary might be president, all of this conversation about Jeffrey Epstein was off limits. I mean, the story we know from Amy Robach at ABC News was buried by that hot mic tape that was released. We know that they had the story. We know that others had the story and never covered it. That's kind of a failure of journalism, isn't it?
Oh, it is a failure of journalism. And when you get right down to it, the establishment media, as I like to call them, protected the Clintons for a long time, going way back to even when Clinton was governor of Arkansas and in the White House for sure. I mean, Bill Clinton is not known as Slick Willie for nothing. When you think of all the multiple controversies and scandals that have followed his career and that the mainstream media basically helped propel him to the White House, and there he was, and he served for 8 years. And even after he got out of the White House, he was still the darling of the establishment media for a long time, and nobody ever bothered to look at what really he had accomplished or not in the White House, or the kinds of problems he was having since he left the White House with the Clinton Foundation and some of the graft going on there and whatnot. But I think the thing with the Jeffrey Epstein is quite interesting because, as you suggested, ABC had this story in 2016 that Bill Clinton was hanging around with Epstein and flying on his plane and whatnot. And they just basically covered it up because they were trying to protect him. And I mean, in a sense, the establishment media has tried to protect the Clinton franchise for a long time. And in 2016, Hillary was being protected at that point because she was running for president. And so the establishment media looked the other way and considered it not news. But, you know, it has to be news. And even when Clinton's name now has come out with the documents that have been released this week, you've noticed that the establishment media has bent over backwards in every story to say, well, there's no evidence of wrongdoing. And I'm thinking, well, the evidence of wrongdoing is that you have a high-ranking political former president who's hanging around with a guy who's engaged in all kinds of nefarious activities.
And what do they think the painting of Bill Clinton in the blue dress with the red high heels hanging on Jeffrey Epstein's wall in his 7-story mansion in Manhattan? To me, that says, Mr. President, that blue dress is nothing compared to what I have on you. That's what I get out of that painting. And yet the media just turns a blind eye. But there was, let's be honest, Professor, there was a fear factor. They didn't want to irritate Hillary Clinton. They thought they were pretty sure that she was going to be president and that Bill Clinton was going to be in that circle. They didn't want to cross that line. And that's really unfortunate because the press in America or anywhere in Western civilization is there to balance the power, to tell the truth. Doesn't matter what political party you're from or what family you're from. If you're doing something egregious and, peddling with young underage women would be something horrible, but they protect them from that because they feared the power and wanted to be part of I guess that whole circle of power and friends, because the media and politicians once separated as blue collar trade, and now it's part of the celebrity class. It's all changed over the last several decades, and I think that's what they were protecting, their own pass to the parties on Friday night. Where am I wrong?